Welcome to this program organized by the Law School of Zanzibar. I'm Professor Muhammad Makame Haji, and I'm going to address issues on the law of conveyancing. Have you ever wondered how the land is transferred from one person to another person, or what happens when someone purchases the land or transfers in other methods from one person to another person? What are the legal procedures that are applied when it comes to a point of transfer the interest in land to another person? And what are the consequences, the legal consequences attached to the process of a transfer? By the end of this program, we'll be able to understand the conveyancing law in general, the process involved in transfer of land or transfer of interest in land generally, from individual to individual or from one party to another party, and addressing matters of significance of the conveyancing law, particularly here in Zanzibar. When we are talking about conveyancing, technically we refer to the entire legal process of a transfer of land or land interest from one person to another. It includes the transfer of interest in land, but it also includes the process of a transfer of interest in land from one person to another, be it from government to individual or from individual to individual, naturally or artificial individual like companies and other legal entities. The process is termed as a conveyancing, but even the procedure of conducting the transfer is also termed conveyancing. Conveyancing also includes matters of documentation, the writings of the documents, the agreement, and the other deeds. They are also termed technically as a conveyancing. The law that governs the whole process of transfer is termed as the conveyancing law. In Zanzibar, conveyancing law has become very important because of the broad expansion of Zanzibar's development and of course the change of the economy and the interaction of people, those who are coming for different reasons. There are those who are coming for a short visit, but there are also those who are coming for long stay in Zanzibar, particularly the foreigners and investors who might need to enjoy a piece of land in different use. Could be for hotels or for a place for investment. Zanzibar, before the revolution of 1964, the conveyancing law was not as important as it is today, because the people were living in a kind of a communal and a customary way where the land was owned communally and everyone had an opportunity to use the land based on the traditional means of the occupation and the usage of the land. But of course we understand that Zanzibar had welcomed a number of visitors. There are those who remained in Zanzibar and those who just came and go by different reasons. And because of that reason, there are a number of integration of people, and we understand even the nature of Zanzibar itself. We had a lot of intermarriage between those who are here in Zanzibar and those who are coming from other part of the globe. They forms and therefore create another forms of culture of even owning, using and possessing the land. The land therefore had transformed from a communal kind of ownership into another type of tenure, up to the private ownership of the land. Now, several procedures were taking place in process of administration of the land in Zanzibar, particularly on transfer of the land. As we refer back from the communal land, people are able to use the land of their families or using the lands of their villages, and they were allowed to use based on the administration by the headmen of the families or members of the family or even the village as a whole. And someone can be allocated a piece of land for certain usage on the basis of their own traditions. But coming to other foreigners, particularly those who established the rule in Zanzibar, we are talking about a period of colonialism. Some of these rulers brought about different types of land administration through the laws, particularly common law. We had inherited another structure of ownership of the land and administration of the land through common law. However, by 1964, land had taken into another stage where the government, the revolutionary government of Zanzibar, declared the whole land in Zanzibar being a public land and invested into the trusteeship of the president, where people were granted some pieces of land for usage through the right of occupancy. Now, the one who owns the land are those who have been granted or otherwise been having or occupying the land before the revolution through other means. Those includes inheritance, purchase, gifts, and other forms of transfer of the land. The land law, therefore, being modernized from the customary way of transfer to a modern kind of transfer, primarily on common law processes or common law rules and regulations. The change in laws and the change in administration has made the government to take a considerable step to come up with a constant and reliable legal framework for managing the land in Zanzibar. In 1992, the revolutionary government of Zanzibar created another piece of legislation, the Land Tenure Act, that provides for the main principles on administration of land in Zanzibar, where the matters of ownership of land, enjoyment of interest in land, transfer of land, and all about the issues of land had been incorporated into this legislation. The Land Tenure Act is the primary legislation in land in Zanzibar. However, there are some other legislations that are also providing some more procedural aspect of procedural issues when it comes to transfer, like a transfer of property act, the Registered Land Act, and several other legislation that it provides for the procedural issues when it comes to aspect of transfer of land from one person to another, be it from government to individual or even from individual to individual. The framework of land provides a clear mechanism of transfer of land as a property, moving from one person to another, starting from an absolute transfer through ownership interest or partial transfer through different other forms like leases, mortgage, and other types of transfer. Zanzibar, therefore, had managed to create a harmonized form of legal framework that provides each and everything concerned to transfer of land or interest in land from one person to another within the aspect of conveyancing law. Based on these laws, the primary aspects of the land right is given by the Land Tenure Act, as what we have described it before. But the procedures of transfer the land interest from one person to another had been included into different pieces of legislations. And these are those relates to procedures on how transfer can be made, procedures on registration of interest or registration of a title, the land, procedures on revenues, payments of stamp duties and taxes and other procedures on how the land can be completely transferred from one person to another. Is a matter of procedure. Therefore, the first step in conveyancing that should be known to everyone is to understand what a piece of land someone needs, and whether that land is owned by another person lawfully, conducting a kind of diligence to verify ownership interest or to verify leasehold interest in a way that one should satisfy himself that the land to which he wants to take in any form of a transfer is legally owned by someone who transfers it. And of course, to avoid some of mischiefs or some of the disputes or problems that may arise later. The second step of property or land transfer is a valuation of the land itself. Looking at the market value of the land, one will have to verify that a piece of land or the interest in land he wants to transfer or he wants to take has a particular market value and should not be given the price over price, which is not the price in market. You also need to develop documents for documenting the interest and the agreements of both parties. These could be in different forms. We have different forms of documents that legally termed as deeds, based on the kind of a transfer. If it is a sale, then you can make an agreement for sale or a sale deed. If it is a mortgage, for instance, you want to take some loan from financial institutions like banks, you may also need to have a document like a mortgage deed. If it is a gift transfer of property of land from one person to another person, you may also need to have a document, deed gift, that provides for the details of the property and the interest is so transferred from the donor to donee. So the property transfer that refers to the interest in land should be transferred by writings, and those writings have to be formally done by persons who are qualified to do that, like advocates or lawyers who have been given that opportunity or that privilege to prepare the legal document. They may assist into preparation of these documents. The other step is the exchange of the interest in way of consideration. If the transfer is through the exchange of consideration, like a pricing and the delivery, or if there's no any consideration in terms of exchange, like the transfer through a gift, then there must be a unilateral kind of giving from one who is providing the land to another in way of transfer, and the other person should also accept that transfer to make it legally a transfer of gift. By having all of these procedures, both parties, the transferor and the transferee, will have to approach the legal offices to document their agreements or to document their transfer. And of course, we have some other offices that are given the task of collecting taxes and appropriate revenues in forms of stamp duties through the registration of those documents. So transfer in Zanzibar is completed by legally documenting it and register through the registered offices in land to make sure that everyone has completed the whole procedure of transfer of land, or any interest or any title in land from person to person. Conveyancing law in Zanzibar has a lot of significances, looking at the importance at national level, but it's also very important at the individual level. In the national level, the process of conveyancing aligns with the government policies and strategies in well managing the land in Zanzibar, knowing that land in Zanzibar has become very important by its small size of the country, but of course the increasing number of demand by investment or ordinary use by individual. And therefore it has been very important to manage the land in a way that the government has authorized. The conveyancing therefore supports a clear collection of revenue, different types of dues, those collected by the government, but it provides also a proper conveyancing facilities organized by planning authorities like urban development and infrastructure planning. Doing it in a legal framework, it provides a clear doing it in a legal framework provides a mechanism that each and everyone involved in a conveyancing to have an ample time to determine where to settle his interest. If a land is allocated for agriculture, then it has to be used for agriculture. If it has been set for any other investment, then it has to be used for the designated purposes. Therefore, the conveyancing law provides a mechanism for the authority to maintain what had been planned for the usage of the land. Conveyancing law also provides a clear ownership records because all agreements in transfer are reduced in writing and later on registered to provide a document as evidence that a person is an owner of interest in land or is owner of the land. Conveyancing also assists in protecting cultural heritage and historical properties. We understand that by history, Zanzibar had hosts a lot of historical sites, and through this means the law provides a clear directives and a clear guidelines on the proper use of the land, with the idea of preserving and protecting the historical sites and the cultural heritage in Zanzibar. Well, understanding conveyancing law will create awareness to individuals, and that will avoid some fraudulent transactions and land scams. If you are really aware of what involved in conveyancing and what the law says when it comes to conveyancing of the land, you of course get rid of all sorts of scams. You get rid of all sorts of fraudulent, and therefore you shall have a clear forms of transfer and becoming owner of your interest in land, legally authorized and acceptable by standard given by the law. It also helps to register property legally and serve as a collateral for obtaining loan. When you have a transfer being completed and the interest is well registered by the registrar of the land, the document can also be used as a collateral to obtain loan from any financial institution. That will help the community, and it also help the individual into financing whatever type of a project they may have by using the security of land. Identifying the ownership interest or the leasehold interest in land will help them to be able to approach the banks for securing the financial loan. Conveyancing law is very important to provide procedural ways in helping prevention the demolition or illegal development of properties. It will become very awkward if you invest a lot of money to develop a building or to create any asset, and later on you are caught by surprise that a place that you have developed is designated for another purpose, or maybe it was not legally obtained, and therefore you should demolish that place because you are intruder into a kind of restrictions, and therefore it becomes a burden on your part. By having awareness of conveyancing law, all of these affairs will be cleared by a knowledge that will assist you or helping you into obtaining land or interest in land legally and validly. To the foreigners, those who comes for a visit, or those who comes for looking for some pastures in investment and other economic activities, conveyancing law provides a certainty and legal protection of their investment. It provides a very clear rules that will ensure them and give them an assurance that what they obtain, either be a transfer from an individual or a transfer from the government, is legally and avoids all kind of fraudulence or any sorts of a problem. It will also provide a specific restriction on foreign ownership and a mechanism of obtaining land in Zanzibar. Of course, we understand that from the Land Tenure Act, the ownership of land, particularly the right of occupancy, is restricted only to Zanzibari. But it provided through the same act and some other laws that a foreigner may acquire land through leaseholds. If it comes in the means of investment, then there are some authority like Zanzibar Investment Promotion Authority will assist the investor into obtaining what they want in land, to have a lease of different terms. The land can be granted, lease can be granted through 33 years, 66 years, or even 99 years, that a foreigner as an investor can hold a lease for that period of time where he can be allowed legally to undertake whatever economic activities or any investment activities on land for the duration given under that schemes. It also provides a directive on occupation and allocation of land for foreigners and investors to legally occupy and properly utilizing the land. So conveyancing law address very important procedures, making an investor or a foreigner to acquire the land in a justifiable and legal way that will avoid all kind of disputes in future, because it will provide a kind of acceptable mechanism in ownership of interest in land. For the foreigner, conveyancing law here in Zanzibar has a critical one. An investor may require the certainty that the investment are legally protected, but also secure the property interest to improve access to financing opportunities. Investor may also seek assurance that profits and the capital can be transferred lawfully. Conveyancing law will help to protect investments against unlawful interference and legal certainty that encourage the disputes resolution through the recognized mechanism, be it domestic framework or even international framework. Therefore, having this kind of knowledge on conveyancing law in Zanzibar will assist much investors into assuring that they are in a safe place, and in case of anything, there's a way that can be used to resolve whatever dispute that may resolve. There are a number of mistakes commonly committed by individuals when it comes to transfer of interest in land, or when it comes to conveyancing. The common mistake includes the failure to conduct due diligence, as what we said from the beginning, that this is the first important step that one will have to take, to conduct due diligence, making sure that what he has as interest in ownership is clear from any sort of encumbrances or any sort of problem. The misunderstanding on land ownership may lead to disputes, and of course, if you bypass the regulations and the procedure in transfer of land or transfer of interest in land, may lead to the land dispute, and that is a 50-50 kind of winning. You may lose what you have, or otherwise you may become a victory of what you have. So it's better if you can make it from the beginning that what you own or what you want to transfer is good for transfer, and you obtain a better title through that transfer by applying the conveyancing law. The common pitfalls due to lack of awareness also involves the lack of awareness that lead to fraud, invalid transactions, or family disputes, and most important, can cause the financial loss. You put a lot of money only to realize that the one to whom you bought the land or you have taken interest in land was not the owner, or maybe was not authorized by his family, or maybe the land was in a certain planning through the local government authority, and therefore it was not a place to be taken for your purpose. So it's good that you have a knowledge of the conveyancing to avoid all of these pitfalls. Conveyancing law, therefore, protects the rights of every individual. It promotes economic development. It reduces the disputes in land and strengthens the investor's confidence. By applying the mechanisms or the procedures, one would be very assured that he is good for transfer, or he is good to take interest in land. In this lesson, therefore, we explored the evolution of a conveyancing law in Zanzibar and the conveyancing processes, but we also tried to look at the importance of a conveyancing at the public level and the individual level, but aligning again the same knowledge and the understanding for the foreigners and investors who may wish to acquire the interests of land in Zanzibar or to own the land in Zanzibar. Understanding the conveyancing is very essential to lawyers, to citizens, to investors, to policymakers, to everyone, because everyone needs the land in his lifetime. Whether you need it for dwelling house, or you may need it for investment, or you may need it for temporary use short time period whatsoever, but in fact land is very important, and managing the land through law had been maintained by the state, by the government. Therefore, it is important to everyone to understand or having the knowledge of conveyancing law when it comes to issues of a transfer of land or anything interest in land from one person to another. This will awaken us to have more interest of learning the conveyancing law or learning the law in Zanzibar, and of course, as what had been the interest of the Law School of Zanzibar, to provide this awareness and be able to understand basics of conveyancing law, but the details of it, the Law School of Zanzibar provides a lot of trainings when one needs to have a knowledge or some skills in law. You are all welcome to the Law School of Zanzibar for any training in law that will impart you with the necessary skills required for the practices and the other usage. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time when we meet,